Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to preview the Volunteer State rivalry game between Vanderbilt and Tennessee. This one in Knoxville. You can catch it 2:30 Central. That'd be 3:30 Eastern in the time zone in which it will be played in Knoxville. And Vols huge favorites in this one, and deservedly so. Bad week for Tennessee last week. The Georgia game was nothing what Tennessee wanted. As for Vandy, the best thing you can say is it was a bye week, and right now for Vanderbilt, they'll take that because when they have played, they have been awful.
Yeah, you put it that way. Never great for the highlight to be the bye week, but yeah, I mean that's kind of where they are right now, and yeah, we know sort of where things stand coming off the 47-6 loss to South Carolina. Every game they've lost in this stretch beyond the UNLV game has been by, what's the number? 17
Probably
or more?
well double digits, yeah.
Yeah, so 47-6 South Carolina, or no, excuse me, 16 or more. They lost to Auburn 31-15. But yeah, that's been the streak of SEC games for them. Meanwhile, Tennessee coming off the multiple in terms of the 28-point loss to Georgia, 29-point loss to Missouri. Pretty disappointing performances there, given what they wanted it to be, given what those two games could have meant, and kind of that was the talk we had all season, was about how important those two games could be as you were seeing Missouri be as good as they were, and then of course getting to the Georgia game, what kind of stakes would be involved there. Yeah, just didn't turn out the way the Vols wanted it. So two teams not thrilled right now with where they are, although one still much further along.
This preview is sponsored by BetOnline. The holiday season is off and rolling. NFL's in full stride, and the NBA and the NHL are hitting midseason form. BetOnline is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info, with up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. BetOnline is a top spot for everything pro and amateur sports. Not just the Big Four, BetOnline has info available at your fingertips for desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that's played, from MMA to international soccer. Head to BetOnline today to remember to use your promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, I think that's in caps, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Blake. I usually go into a deep dive on stats on these games. I'm not going to, because I think a lot of it's not relevant here. I've seen both these teams play a lot, and we'll start when Vandy's got the ball. Vanderbilt cannot run the ball on anybody, even bad teams. They've got little talent at the running back position. Their offensive line has been awful. Their passing game at times has shown some things. Ken Seals has done some things, although those have been a little bit more in the rearview mirror. Their play calling has been abysmal lately. They have rotated with Walter Taylor, although he turned the ball over so much the last time out against South Carolina. I wonder how much he gets used. Look, when Vanderbilt is dialed into Seals in the passing game, and they've got some weapons, Will Shepard's kind of gone AWOL, but they've got London Humphreys, Junior Sherrill, some young guys that are good. Vanderbilt can make plays in spots, but Tennessee's defense is good. They can take the ball away every now and then. They can really get after the passer, which Vanderbilt can't protect. And they're pretty decent against the run, too. Vandy can't run at all. I think Vanderbilt's formula, if it's going to make it close, is using the passing game in this one. But I question, even with the injuries to Tennessee on defense, if they can move the ball consistently against the Vols, because we just have not seen that from Vanderbilt. A lot of the numbers they're putting up have been in garbage time late in games, and even with those, they're not pretty.
Yeah, I mean, they can use the passing game if they can, get enough pass attempts off, because remember Tennessee's still top 10, I think, nationally in sacks per game. You're averaging 3.1, something like that. So yeah, I mean, like you said, even with injuries and that kind of stuff, look, we're trying here. Like, I think Tennessee defensively will still be able to do some things. Like you said, it's statistically, the biggest weaknesses in terms of, completion percentage for opposing quarterback. And obviously teams are trying to throw on Tennessee. It's hard to run against them, which that works out in Vanderbilt's favor, because like you said, they're not doing anything in the running game. So there's something to be had there. I think, from that standpoint, it's something you can at least try to lean on if you're Vanderbilt, like you said, but it really comes down to quarterback play. Are you going to get any consistency there? And can you protect enough to give them open opportunities to do so, because Tennessee has made that hard on not every team, but teams of this caliber has not been easy to do that for the opposition.
Other side of the matchup, Tennessee is run against a lot of teams, and they've got a multifaceted running attack. They got a quarterback in Joe Milton who can run it. I do have some question as whether this will be a Nico Iamaleava game. Surely you're not going to bench Milton on senior day, the last game, to start, but I do wonder if things are a little disappointing, or even if they get out of hand, if you want to see Iamaleava. They didn't play him last week because they would burn his red shirt. He can play this week without affecting anything, but I don't think it's really going to matter a whole lot who's at quarterback in some ways, because I think what the Vols are going to do is run the ball. Vanderbilt's had fits against the run and the pass. It's just kind of like pick one that you really want to go to, and you can do it against Vandy. They're not very fast on the back end. They have not played with a lot of focus. They're missing a ton of tackles. I think Tennessee will probably run the ball 3 times for every time it throws the ball, and it just whatever it does. Vanderbilt's defense has been horrible, and I don't see it stopping much of anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue. Is Tennessee's offense has left a lot to be desired at times, especially like we said, passing game and all that. But Vanderbilt's allowed 31 or more points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 straight games. So yeah, I mean, it really comes down to that, right? Is Tennessee's had issues, but this is the kind of matchup where you can solve some of those issues and at least finish the regular season on a strong note in terms of the offense coming back out. And again, let's call it what it is. It's not a Georgia-Missouri type matchup. It is a matchup that is much more favorable and will allow your offense to kind of build some confidence heading into bowl season and all that. Like you said, quarterback-wise, who knows? I mean, just given that the game could be out of hand, in terms of how many snaps this person plays or that person plays. But yeah, I mean, there's very little here for me to look at and say, boy, Vanderbilt's going to be able to stop Tennessee here, or they're going to be able to exploit some of those weaknesses there, even if, there has been some inconsistency with Tennessee at times. We know they can run the ball. We know that any of the running backs can break it off for a huge play at any time. And just looking at what Vanderbilt's allowing, looking on covers here, 5.1 yards per rush. That's 124th nationally. Tennessee will be able to run all over them probably.
And that's without sacks.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things if you're looking for something that might make it more interesting. Tennessee, I think, the most penalized team in the league, and Vanderbilt one of the least. So if those come at costly times, wipe a score off the board, something like that, maybe that's your recipe to evening it. Vanderbilt's got an elite punter in Matt Hayball, who's fantastic, maybe an NFL leg. Tennessee, though's got a return man in D. Williams who can bring him back for scores. We've seen that a few times. But if you're looking for a way that it's interesting, it's that and it's a rivalry game. But Blake, when we see Vanderbilt play recently, the South Carolina game, it just looked disinterested. Even if Vanderbilt shows up and gives it a full go, before the bye week, they got clobbered in Columbia in a bad weather game, but just didn't look like they wanted to be there. It's transfer portal era. It's coaches getting fired probably after this game kind of thing. Not the head coach, but you'll see some changes, I think, unless Tennessee comes out unfocused. And I'm guessing Tennessee's going to play a better game after the way it sort of no-showed against Georgia and Missouri. It's hard to see this one being close.
Yeah, unless Tennessee's just not motivated based on being just so deflated after those 2 games. That's always a possibility in terms of maybe they start slow and turn it on after that. I mean, we kind of saw Ole Miss, against UL Monroe, right? They first half, you're like, what is this, 7-3 or whatever it was? But once they turn it on, they turn it on. And so, by the way, there's construction still going on around here. But let me ask you this, a trivia note, and we're going to wrap up with this. Has there ever in the history of college football been a team during the regular season that goes 1-4, however many games they played against the spread, and their only cover came against the 2-time defending national champion that now has a 30-something game winning streak? Because Vanderbilt is 1-10 against the spread, and their only cover all season long is against Georgia. That may be one of the wildest stats I've ever seen, and we'll see if they cover in this one. I think Tennessee's favored by 25.5, something like that. If Tennessee covers And that winds up being the case. They finished the season on 1-11 against the spread, with the only one being Georgia. One of the wildest stats you could ever imagine, I think.
And this is the team with the Vegas over-under on the wins. Was it 3 or 3.5 coming into the season?
I think it was 3.5 is what we
said. So
yeah,
the bar wasn't really high, and then Vanderbilt has gone under that for 10 of 11 games.
Yep. Wild.
Yeah. All right. That's about all we can squeeze out of this.
I'll pick the Vols.
Yeah, I think we're both going there. Yeah, thank you for watching. We're picking all the SEC games this week. Best way to catch those, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, tell a friend. For Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online, and thank you for watching.